Well, so the first thing is that it's going to be difficult for me to follow along because we're using this to record and have Gary join. And this is where I have all the documents stored in the cloud. But I know that the plan was to go through, Gary, if I'm not mistaken, it's the highlighted in yellow portions of the document from 616. Is that correct?
Yes, what Nina sent, her notes on those documents, right? And
Yeah.
Nathan, I don't need to see people as long as I can hear them. So if you want to turn your computer around so that you can actually see what you're doing, that would be okay. I'll just be looking at you. You can turn the camera on.
Let's see if I can do that. I don't know if it will let me. It might. Might be able to do that. So the first item was page 9. Says second column, second paragraph, line 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Change must be to should be.
Yeah,
And
but it also says C note and W. I'm assuming.
that's just, that was this memo where
Oh, that's what this document is. Okay, now I'm understanding what this document was.
that was my notes.
Okay.
Wait, is that, I don't have a hard copy of that. Is that in our, should I have a hard copy of that?
Of what, this one?
Yeah.
That was,
That's what Gary and you sent today.
yeah.
Oh, no, but I'll find it. Thank you. I wasn't sure if
It's basically redundant to this.
Let me see if I can actually.
Super slow on this one.
I'm just gonna ask all kinds of questions.
Well, like on some of this, number 1, 2, and 3, she's just updated what we asked her to do, like modify this section to include protection of neighborhood character, which was a suggestion that Frank had made, and she did that. And then she, in number 3, she made the change, and this would be on page 14, which has to do with plans and objectives.
There are.
Right, that is to encourage smaller scale and home-based businesses that are compatible with the character of the neighborhood. So she updated that text on page 14. I mean, from my way of thinking, and I'm sorry, Nathan, this is truly your meeting, but the ones I think where she's asking us to clarify something, like on number 4, she says, please clarify whether the plan should include the full definition of subdivision in this section or reference the section in zoning text. I mean, I think those are the things.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was assuming were the things in yellow were the things for us to go through.
Right, so I don't know why.
Yes, I think that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And there's one in red, and that is number 12. That is something that we need to finalize also.
Okay.
Just a comment. These mirror the copy with the speech balloons.
The boxes that they're formatted as boxes in the hard copy.
They're formatted as little speech
Oh,
balloons.
correct, okay.
They follow exactly the September 30th copy. Right, I think the ones with the blue type after them are looking for further clarification.
Right, so I think that's where Nathan's is going.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
So take it over, Nathan.
Sure. So so the next one is page 22, first column, single family residential. The third line has presumed subdivision. So the request is please clarify whether the plan should include the full definition of subdivision in this section or reference this section of zoning text.
And the zoning text is in the back.
I do think one way or another, it could even be a note with a definition as to what it means.
I'd like to see it on page 22. So the first time we reference the modern subdivisions, people, if somebody doesn't understand what that it is,
So right there.
right there,
Let's do it. I'm agreed.
Should we? I don't know what the definition length is. I could try to find it in here, but if it's extensive, should we limit it to like a more succinct definition that
And
says
then
for
say
further
see
clarification?
page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Which I don't need to take notes because
Oh, yeah, we do. Are you,
I'm gonna
are
stop.
you even following this? I don't mean that meanly, I mean.
We're
do
saying
you
we're
want me to
saying which
make you a
page.
copy of it?
No, I'm just, whatever you're saying, I'm writing down.
It's easier.
We're gonna be hopping all around because what we're doing, Mark, and I can make a copy of this for both of you guys, is these are notes that Nina left with from the last meeting, and we had a bunch of changes. We asked her to put in, word changes and stuff. And then some of them, she wrote back and said, I need clarification on this before I can do anything further. So, I mean, we are citing page numbers, but if you want, I can run and make copies.
Great.
Actually, I wouldn't run a hard copy.
Jeez, anybody else?
I guess me.
Is it too early to ask for a hard drink? All right, the next page is.
So, so we're going to include the definition of a subdivision there. Is that the conclusion?
Yeah, so Gary, the thought is we'll include it as, a succinct definition, and because I don't know how long it is and how verbose it is.
Yeah.
But if it could be a little bit too much, then we'll just reference the page for the complete and full definition.
Okay. And
But at least that,
it could be a footnote there.
yeah, that's another way to handle it as well.
Okay.
But I think we want some explanation in the text, even if it's an abbreviated.
So not a footnote, but rather in line. Okay.
Okay.
I'll wait for Wendy to get back the copies for everyone else.
Yeah. This is too old.
Because I am. Okay.
So item 10 is the last paragraph of the page 68. So I'll read it. Consistent with existing development patterns, and I'm assuming it says something commercial. I can't see because
Future.
okay, because it's covered by the note. Commercial and future retail uses should be encouraged to locate within the Stanfordville and Bengal hamlets along the Route 82 and Huns Lake corridor. So the note here that we had was to add an explanation of why we want to focus developments in the hamlet. So some of the reason and justification why that is relevant in here. And Nina's request is for us to provide language to add. So should we come up with that language now, or
We should.
footnote versions of it, or an outline of it? And
Does anyone remember whose request that was?
no,
It was Nathan's. Put in a Y, NL.
maybe that was my why page.
Yeah, that was your request. I mean, it's funny because I actually, and I think Gary can speak to this, but I thought that the reason was because that's where, so we don't end up having little business corridors in mostly resident, in other areas that are not zoned for commercial. Unless it's home use, which is what we've been talking about. So those the businesses, because we're talking about commercial and retail, they're already located in a central zone, and I think we just didn't want sprawl.
I actually feel like it's kind of there in the first part of the paragraph. It's consistent with existing development. But if that's not enough.
Right.
I think there are other mentions in other parts of the document that we wish to develop that center of our town with lighting and walkways and other elements.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it does say consistent with existing development patterns, but why is this document saying to stay consistent versus having it go the other way? So, and I think that, one is to your point, which it's one of those things where like, I know it's in our heads, but I just want to make sure it's documented. And so one of it is that, to continue the concentration of businesses in the area, to start to formalize a quote unquote business center, if you will, or some sort of center.
And
It doesn't even have to be business, it can just be a center.
town center.
Sure.
Yeah,
and-
that's exactly the philosophy that was guiding us when we put the draft plan together. Was we want to focus development, both commercial, primarily commercial development in the hamlets, to create that town center and to prevent sprawl. So I think you guys hit it there.
And in addition, to preserve the rest of our rural agricultural
Okay, so
character.
Yes.
So I've got
This
three things so
will-
far.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got so it's this idea of creating a concentration of business and retail use in the center to help create a town center. One is to prevent the sprawl of such entities and businesses and whatnot. And then the other is to preserve the rural character of the non-centered area.
Yes.
So it's not well crafted as far as language, but those seem to be the 3 points that we could include here to satisfy why this is a recommendation or an encouragement.
Right, so we need to refine the language
Right, we can, yeah,
so that Nina can put it in.
right. Is that something I'm owning?
Well, you're the one who brought it up.
I know,
told
I
you,
know.
you know.
I'm gonna stick with that though. If you come up with the thing, then you're the author. That's the trend. So I will own it, but we have to continue that.
Good thing I take notes, like on the next page, you're the one who.
But the
Nathan,
thing is-
that'll shut everybody up for sure. That rule.
Nathan, you are all over page 69.
Yeah, but we're not onto that page. We're going to page 71. So we're good. Okay, so I will author some language for that particular page.
Okay,
Uh,
page 71.
Yeah, okay, so page 71. Sorry.
Did we contact them?
So Nathan, we should do something with number 12. She didn't highlight that, but that requires some action.
Okay, so page 69. The first paragraph,
That's when you're all
Yes,
over,
that's
Nathan.
true. Yeah.
the issue of whether and where to extend the RC zone was extensively discussed but not resolved. Rather than extending the RC district, the town board agreed to revise the language in the plan to recommend creating a new mixed district or an overlay district. That wasn't just me, that was everybody.
That was-
Wait, what?
Where-
No, actually, that was Stephen. But I'm so sorry. What number are we at?
12.
12.
12.
yeah.
Page for issue of whether and where to extend this, not resolved rather than extending the.
So
town board
so the
agreement.
language is extending the current rural center RC zone northward along the east side of Route 82 to the intersection of Millis Lane would allow more opportunities for business something and have larger space requirements, including a nursing home or
No, it's
nursery.
nursery, which we're.
Sorry, I'm
taking
trying to
out.
read over I have all the yellow stickies on it.
So we
we would-
decided, if I could say something, we decided to essentially do that, but instead of just extending the RC zone, it would either be a new zone or it would be an overlay.
Right.
And so I think the town board should either decide whether it's going to be a new zone or an overlay, or they should punt it to the zoning committee by saying something to the effect that it could be a new zone or an overlay, by revising the wording in the plan to say that.
I thought we had all agreed to do an overlay district. That would be where we could refine, I can't see you with these on, where we would refine the uses so that they would be more in keeping with that residential mixed use area. I thought we had agreed to that.
I think we all agreed in theory, but we didn't do brass tacks of language.
Okay, but we have,
But we didn't actually specify the location though either.
yeah,
there-
it's on the east side. The overlay district was proposed to be on the east side of 82 from wherever it begins at the bank up to past Sunny's at the intersection of Millis and
Yeah, no, I that I understand, but I maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, which is very, very possible. Is that we agreed to the overlay, but we didn't agree to where the overlay was going to go.
oh, I didn't know that
So
was in
cons-
question. Oh, I remember, that's right. We were
Yeah,
looking at
because
that
we were
big map.
saying we had the map out and we're like, well, if we do this, why wouldn't we do this? And if we did that, shouldn't we do this? That I don't know if we ever actually settled on to the extent of where the overlay would actually go.
I was under the impression, and again, I'm older than you, so my memory is probably more faulty. But I thought we had decided we weren't hopping over the line to deal with John Hughes's property, and that we were gonna just do the east side of, we weren't gonna go down, we were just gonna go up from the bank to beyond Uncle Sonny's to the
Middle
triangle.
Sunny,
Yeah,
To the yield
that
sign.
would be the overlay district.
Okay.
Not quite sure I understand the difference between extending the RC district or an overlay or new mixed use.
That was going to be.
If we do an overlay as opposed to just extending it, we get to say the allowable uses in this overlay district are more constrictive than if we just extend the RC, so that there wouldn't be what were some of the examples?
Gas station.
A gas station, and there wouldn't be manufacturing there.
And so then what's the difference between the overlay and a new mixed use district?
Different way of getting to the same result.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So it really is a language.
But it ends up in the same place.
Correct, okay. So Gary, I'm sorry, were you saying, when you said that we could include the language in the plan and then request that the zoning board make it happen? Is that what you were saying?
What I was saying is if you don't want to make the decision between an overlay and a new zone, you could punt that to the zoning committee. But it sounds like the decision's made that you're going to go with an overlay, which is fine. So we should just say in the plan, there should be an overlay zone that adds some more restrictive conditions on that section from the bank up to Uncle Sonny's, and put in there what conditions it is that we're talking about adding. So the zoning committee would have some idea of what to do with that. Did you hear that?
So-
Did you follow it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So ultimately what it would do is it would change the language in that extending the current rural zone northward sentence. We need to have an edit there that's saying essentially that there's creating an overlay, or we could keep that sentence to be to encourage da 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 da. And then because what's interesting is that in that fourth bullet point in the recommendations is essentially the same thing. So what I might do is we could either eliminate it from that paragraph entirely and then just keep it as a bullet point. And that bullet point could effectively say, instead of extending the north boundary, well, it could still say something to that effect, but establishing a new overlay which provides an extension on the northern and eastern side of 82 to the intersection with Millis Lane for a new business district. Something like that.
You really just have to say on that final bullet, extend the northern boundary of the RC zoning district
But we're not doing that.
into an overlay
Oh, okay.
along the east side of 82 to the intersection with Millis Lane, which would add some restrictive conditions to the type of commercial entities that
Sounds like you're gonna offer it.
I'm just,
I think there's one thing that's not quite clear yet. So it's that area is currently zoned in the AR. So are we talking about an overlay over the AR zone, or are we talking about extending the RC zone and then putting an overlay over the RC zone? So that essentially all of the restrictions that are in the RC zone would apply to this new extension and some more because of the overlay.
right.
Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about putting the overlay over the current AR zone, in which case the AR requirements would apply to it, plus the overlay?
Yeah, that's why when I was reading this, I didn't read extending the RC because we're not extending the RC. We're adding an overlay
To
to
the AR.
existing, yeah.
I think you guys are getting hung up on techniques. You can get to the result you want with any of these techniques.
We just need to provide the language.
Right.
Yeah.
You can just say, as Karen said before, let the zoning board decide.
I don't want to,
Technique,
I don't,
However you want to do it, but.
I don't want to do that. I want us to be clear
Yeah, I
that,
don't want to dump it on them.
Okay,
that we want, we
You just
want.
wouldn't get hung up on the technique, because you can get to the result that you want with any of a number of techniques.
Gary,
Okay.
can you provide the language that would basically make clear that actually, I guess what we're doing is putting an overlay district, did you call it an overlay district?
Overlay zone or district, sure.
Over the current AR district from the Stissing Bank to the intersection of Millis and 82. Could you craft that language?
I think I'd want to talk to Nina about that, but yes, yeah, I could do it. But I need to be clear about what the goals of the town board are with this. So do we expect the regulations that are currently in place in the RC to also be in place in this extension, and then some more, like,
Yeah.
you know, what, no
Yeah.
gas stations or whatever, like, if so, then we just need to be clear about exactly what it is we want here.
Yeah, I think, Gary, that's where I was kind of going with, I was wondering in my head, and I'll still formulate as a question, is to Steve's point, what we're saying here is effectively going to get us to the same thing. So no matter how we word this, so maybe we just describe the thing we're trying to get to instead of how we're going to get
Right.
there.
What are the
Is
restrictions?
yeah, what are the restrictions? So, you know, we can still keep, you know, maybe we do strike that last sentence of that first paragraph, but bullet 4 is about the type of restrictions that we're going to put into this overlay or extension or whatever it may be. And so that's probably where we need to have that specificity.
Okay,
And that still isn't a recommendation, but it's a specific recommendation. And how we get there, overlay, extension, new zone, mixed use, whatever, is not irrelevant, but it's not the recommendation. The recommendation is the outcome.
and so what are some of the characteristics that would be the reason for the overlay zone that we're trying to achieve?
I had,
Right.
let me see if I still have Steve's memo. Because it was well crafted. Oh, discussion based on Mark Burgett's. Sorry, I have 900 memos here. Steve, do you remember in a nutshell?
Yes.
Could you like tell us What,
I
what,
think it's actually what you had said earlier when we were introducing the subject, which is basically to exclude certain uses from the RC zone, which are considered less compatible with the residential character that exists currently on that side of 82, as well as Millis Lane.
right,
Examples could include the gas stations and manufacturing use. So
right.
it's kind of a classic zoning consideration of separating incompatible uses.
So we want to exclude uses that are not compatible with the semi-residential character of this extension area.
Right,
Yes.
Yep.
such as manufacturing, what do we call it, light industry, power plant, nuclear plant, gas station.
Okay.
But are we putting anything in this bullet about the John Hughes or anything in this section about that part of the discussion?
I
Well,
couldn't hear
that-
Margaret.
Oh, Margaret's asking if we're dealing with the John Hughes property or not, you know,
Mhm.
which I had wanted to deal with, kind of to memorialize it. And it seemed like I was in the minority about, there was concerns about jumping over the highway. Also that it's a very large, it is a very large
Yes.
piece of property,
Yeah.
but if it's restricted, if there are restrictions placed on what can happen in that area, then he can't put in I don't know how you the language so that you don't have a superstore, you know, you don't have a Target come in because it's a big piece of property, but so it was just my understanding that people didn't want to deal with the John.
I just want to be clear. that
I
we're-
still would like to, you know. I do have a letter from him from 1992 asking if it would be. It's not here.
Wendy, what would be the negative of doing what you're proposing?
I couldn't come up with one. I heard, I can't, maybe it was Tom Angel, somebody said that it's not usual to jump over, you know, to have something be non-contiguous, to have a zone jump over a road and make it non-contiguous. I think that was an objection that might have come from the planning board. Was that it?
I think
it's-
Wendy, I said that it's not considered good practice to zone around a particular property. you
Right.
know.
Right, okay.
But
And I think
that
you'd have
whole-
to ask yourself if somebody on the east side of 82, one of the residential properties, decided that they didn't want to be in this zone, would you allow them to exclude themselves from this? Because that's the same thing. You're, you know, zoning around a particular property.
But is there, since there's an overlay on the east side, is there objection to doing that on the west side,
Yeah, that apparently opened up a huge can of worms. Gary, you want to talk about the conversation that went on and on and on about the west side versus just the east side? That was within the comprehensive plan review committee. It was a
Yeah,
hot,
so we did have quite a conversation about that, and I think the issue that won the day there was the idea that there are some larger parcels there along the west side, which could open us up to businesses
Mapping.
that require a larger footprint, like the dollar store or something like that. So we'd be opening ourselves up for development that we may not want. Agree with that, Wendy?
yeah, and right, so, and there's also, I mean, the Dahlia Farm is over there, there's,
Excuse me.
I think in a way it might have been a compromise, like, yes, we're going to extend it, but we're not going to just, you know, make the whole corridor basically commercial. That, so anyway, I know that wasn't there were two members on the comprehensive review plan who wanted the west side to be included, and then the rest, everybody else voted no.
Mr. Hughes owns the automobile shop and also the junkyard.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to go get the letter from Mr. Hughes from the first round?
No, we've done, I know, we've definitely done all that.
Okay.
Are we finished with that topic?
Did you want to pipe in?
I'm disappointed you're not considering it. So that's my point.
I couldn't hear you, Mark.
I'm disappointed you're not considering it. I think it's a lousy decision.
Considering it RC, or
Including John Hughes into your overlay district. That's my point.
well, if the overlay is similar to the east side, and that allows him to establish business for other neighborhood-friendly businesses, but not to continue as a junkyard, I would imagine. Is that your
He
understanding?
couldn't be here tonight, but I don't want to speak for him, but he's not worried about the junkyard being part of this.
His concern is maintaining his automobile business.
So, yeah.
The automobile repair and the automobile sales.
And the concern is that upon his sale of the business, he would not be able to sell it to someone else continuing the business?
He's right now he's a non-conforming grandfather use. I think that's what terminology. He shuts down for 1 year, he loses the use.
For that purpose.
And he can't expand the use without going through major gyrations. I'm not sure he can expand the use, but if he wanted to expand the use, it's a major deal and he might not even be able to. I haven't read that.
So just my own understanding, the restrictions on an overlay district on the east side would similarly disadvantage him on the west.
Not if you include automobile repair shops.
Oh,
And
fine. Got it.
automobile sales shops. It's a year.
So his letter says,
I could look it up, but I'm pretty sure.
it was from 2013, during the March 11th, 2013 public hearing regarding the proposed master plan. Comments regarding my concerns about how the proposed master plan would affect my property were made. I have read the minutes from said public hearing. Notice that the minutes made no mention of these comments. In addition, I have also been told that some of the people who made comments have received written comments back from the town. So since my concerns were not mentioned in the minutes, since I have not received comments back from the town, since I do not know if the videotape of public hearing will be viewed in detail, blah, 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 blah. I feel it necessary for me to notify the town board in writing of my concerns regarding the proposed master plan. Past and present history. My property address is 6257 Route 22, being 18.82 acres in size under the present zoning ordinance. My property, along with my neighbor's properties on the opposite side of Route 82, are located within the AR district. Presently on my property, I have a single-family residence, an automotive parts recycling yard, an automotive repair shop, and an automotive sales yard. My two uncles purchased the property, and all four of the above-mentioned uses have been taking place on the property since the early 1950s. I have a town of Stanford issued junkyard permit. Junkyards under the present town of Stanford zoning ordinance are an allowed use within the AR district. My comments are as follows. The proposed master plan is proposing a rural commercial residential area mapped in specific detail located in two areas between Stanford and Bengal and abutting Stanford to the southwest on Route 82. The properties located directly across Route 82 from my property are designated to be included in this new proposed rural commercial residential area, yet my property was left out of this proposed rural commercial residential. Also in the same proposed rural commercial residential area that is located in the other end of town, there is presently an existing automotive repair shop and an existing gas station. Yet my property was left out of this proposal, rural commercial residential. As stated above, my property is presently in a zone that allows junkyards, and I have a licensed junkyard, yet I find no mention in the proposed master plan that my junkyard would remain an allowed use. After my uncle passed away, my mother subdivided the property to settle the estate. My lot was sized 18.82 acres to allow me to have future option of subdividing this lot into 3 parcels. The present AR district allows for 5-acre lots. Since I've been mostly self-employed for my entire work life, I've always had it in my mind that this future opportunity to subdivide my parcel and the eventual sale of the subdivided lots might help me to have an affordable retirement. However, since my property is designated to be in the proposed rural residential 2 area, which is proposed to require more than 5 acres per lot, I may not be able to subdivide to achieve even 2 parcels, let alone the 3 I had anticipated. I believe that my family-owned business for more than 50 years has offered in the past and still offers a great service to this community and other communities by creating jobs and offering inexpensive automobiles, quality repair service, and used parts to the residents who cannot afford new cars and new parts. Many local residents have purchased used cars and have utilized the repair shop. In addition, I have cleaned up many properties throughout the local area by towing away many used automobiles and much equipment, all of which are recycled for used parts or are crushed for eventual recycling. As a result, I request the following be revised in the proposed master plan, that the boundary of the proposed rural commercial residential area be revised to include my property, that my present allowed junkyard use be recognized and be designated to be continued as an allowed end zone use on my parcel, and that the present 5-acre parcel size to be continued to be designated for my parcel.
Let's give his recommendations, his questions again. I had a hard time hearing his request.
He wants the boundary of the new zone to include his property, and that junkyard use would be recognized and designated to be continued as an allowed and zoned use on his parcel. And then something about the present 5-acre parcel size to be continued to be designated for my parcel. And that's over my pay grade because I don't know why.
What year was that?
2013.
That was when,
No.
Wait, Mark's talking for a sec.
when the previous, when they were going to change the acreage requirement.
So that's not.
And that's not
Yeah.
happening now. So he's basically saying, I've been here 50 years and,
72.
right, that was 50. Now it's more. And that he would like to be included in the zone that was being proposed then to be created.
So, if I could say something, but to give him what he wants, the overlay zone would have to include his parcel, yes, but junkyard would have to be an allowable use within that overlay zone.
I thought there was no concern.
I can,
He doesn't care about the junkyard anymore.
did he tell you that? So he
Yeah.
told me that I want him to.
So,
He told Wendy
so
that.
the issue is auto repair
Yeah.
shop being in an allowable use. in
Right.
that zone.
Right.
Which I
And
think,
sales.
I think the sales part probably would be something that would fall under, it would not be an exclusion. But I would have to imagine that a garage repair shop that has various fluids and, as vehicles modernize too, it's going to be considered light industrial. Because you're going to be talking about lithium batteries and other kinds of equipment with future cars.
And then his argument is that there's an auto repair shop.
And also, he wouldn't be manufacturing lithium batteries. He'd be
No, but he could be
purifying.
manufacturing parts.
He doesn't manufacture parts. He buys parts.
I know, but if he sells it and someone else buys it with the expectation they can do that, then it's what I'm getting at is that it's a slippery slope. If we're saying this part's for light industrial, this part's not, and then this part over here is too.
I guess I wouldn't call his business as it exists now, light industrial. I would-
Right, but
And
but how would you classify it? Because we need to classify it, and
I
if
would-
we're going to include it or not, it needs to be classified so that if he is not the owner of it and that the future owner wants to know what it's classified as, they need to know what they can or can't do.
I think you classify it as an auto repair and sales.
But then that severely limits his ability to sell it because it means it can only be opened as one thing. So if that's the case, then it doesn't
No,
really
that's
matter
not
if it's
true.
in the zone or
If
not.
we
Could
say
be
the
anything
over-
else
If
that-
we say the overlay can include an auto repair, that doesn't mean it
Has to be.
Right.
Somebody could open a clothing store there.
Right, but then I get back to the other argument, because I mean, I'm gonna make this comment and it's unfortunate, but some of the things that are in there are quid pro quo of I've done this for the town, you should do this for me. That's also a slippery slope. If we're going to make accommodations for citizens because they've done things for the town, that's precarious. So I want to put that aside. But if we're going to, I don't know if I have an opinion about this really one way or the other, but I would just say the one opinion that I do have is that we either do it the whole west side or we don't do it. I think this whole notion of like starting to pocket it will speak to our willingness to accommodate particular places. And that's, I think, is a dangerous place to start being.
Well, he's been asking this since 2013, and I don't think the thrust of his argument really was, I've been doing stuff for the town. I think
It
that,
was in the letter.
I know, but it was the last, he did put that there, but I don't think that was the major thrust of his argument. I think and I
He put it
don't,
in there though, so I'm still
Yeah, but
entitled
I
to
think-
react to it.
I don't think he put it in, I think he put it in as saying like, this business is a worthwhile business. I think that's really.
And if that's the case, great. But then why, the other thing we were just talking about was creating a center. If you create a center and then say, oh, and then down the street, there's this little pocket, it's discontinuous. And that's one of the things that this plan also talks about is trying to create that center. So great, we can make it whatever we want. I'm in favor of that, but I just think we should make it the whole side. And if we're not, then I don't think
the
we should
whole
skip
side
it.
wants to be. I mean,
But that's what I'm getting at, is that we're not doing this to accommodate everyone's wants. Because if that was the case, I could say, well, I don't want this. And I could write a letter and say, I don't want to be part of this. And then you get into that habit of, now you're creating these individual pockets. And then you could potentially open it up for decentralization entirely,
Exactly.
where you have businesses, you've created sprawl because now you have RC next to an AR next to something else.
Sorry, but as the neighboring landowner, if he gets this benefit, I want it too. And maybe so do the other people who own land on the west side. It's not fair. Why do you confer a benefit on this one landowner and not the other landowner?
Right.
Who are in precisely the same geography?
So the question to me is, on the east side overlay,
you're not supposed to be speaking here.
I know, but
But you don't see it.
I don't, but I'm just saying,
But-
it's not fair.
And
And then that's what Gary, I think, was implying before, when he said it's not considered normal planning practice to select a particular landowner's property and confer a zoning benefit on that particular landowner to the exclusion of other similarly situated landowners.
my understanding is that the overlay on the east side is not being considered, had not in the past been considered for the west side, because there are larger parcels that could open uses that we would not want. But the overlay gives us the opportunity to specify the uses we do and we don't want.
Yep.
So would one use for both sides be automotive repair? And would one other be automotive sales? Would that solve the problem? Everybody in that overlay, both sides, would have the same opportunities of the other restrictions or recommended businesses and auto repair and auto sales.
Are you saying that the new district should be the east and the west side, or were you saying
Well,
that?
I think the only, to me, the only logical way to include the repair shop that's up there now is to create standards for both sides, since we're gonna do it for the east side.
Yep.
Would we not want to do it for the west side and include this one auto repair and sales shop? I don't see any other way to include it. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I think we've talked about this before, but the other way to solve Jeff Hughes'
Gary.
problem is that that the town board could extend the grandfathering waiver or whatever it's called for that property by just, passing a resolution to do that. So that you could say that, if he closes his business, he's got 3 years to sell it and he could continue that use. Or 5 years.
Could we do that explicit just to that property, or could we make it a resolution for all?
No, I'm not talking about doing it in the comprehensive plan or the zoning.
No, I know. I'm just thinking, because Margaret and I actually both think that it's 3 years. So I'm just wondering if we just need to make a resolution that it is actually 3
In
years.
a resolution has,
That's all separate from what we're doing. Gary's just suggesting.
no, I
It's a-
understand.
It's another way for us to make some accommodations for this particular location.
Without,
With-
jury rigging the zoning
Out.
around that property. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And if he doesn't have to worry about the 5-acre business, because that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we've laid this to rest.
Well,
We haven't.
let me
I guess
ask
I
this.
have.
We have
I give
Is
up.
there- Yeah, I mean,
I give up.
what is the concern with making the same accommodations with the west side as the east side?
Gary, explain that again. Would you explain that again? The thought behind not doing the west side?
Well, yeah, the main thing was that there are larger parcels on the west side that could accommodate larger businesses that might not be compatible with what we want in Stanfordville. And that, that's the whole dollar store.
So
and
that-
things like that. And the
So that could be,
second reason, which is probably less important, but was that the west side is closer to the Wappinger Creek, and so commercial development there would be more of a threat to the Wappinger Creek. The
Right.
the county planner said that could probably be ameliorated, so that it was that first issue that I think won the day in the comprehensive plan committee.
so this is to everybody, not just you, Gary.
Mhm.
What if part of that exclusionary component of this overlay also talks about the acreage?
We don't have to address you mean the acreage for the other parcels?
Yeah, so if we do the extension and there are places that have 20 acres, it's, yes, you can open a business here. However, and it has to fall within these exclusionary guidelines of, not a gas station, not industrial manufacturing. And it's also limited to whatever it is, 2, 3, 4, 5 acres. That could be a component of the overlay. So someone could buy all of it, say, I'm going to develop 2/3 of it for my home, 1/3 of it for my business. And they would still fall within that, which would then potentially prevent some of these larger, brick and mortar shops coming in.
And what's the advantage of that from your perspective, Nathan?
It allows us to use that west side, so it increases the scope of this overlay. It accommodates this particular location that we're talking about, and it allows us to control, if you will, what business types go there and the amount of space that they can take up, which is also a preventative measure. Because they might fall into it from a commercial or retail category, but they're also limited in size. So for instance, a big top Target couldn't come in because they don't have the square footage to accommodate parking and all the other components of retail. Even though that category is
I
still,
feel like that complicates things tremendously, and we'll be here for another 10 years debating that.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that this is a hard issue because I'm very influenced by the fact that the business has been there for 72 years. But I'm also, I think that the comprehensive plan the committee put a lot of thought and effort into their recommendations. So I'm really drawn to the possibility of having a resolution extending the grandfather waiver. How often is that type of thing done?
What, extending it,
Yeah.
I don't,
And if we did that, what time, like 5 years? 10 years?
It sounds as though that's a parallel discussion and that for the comprehensive.
Yeah, would
plan,
it be, would
all
it go
we
outside
need
of that?
to Do is to decide that's the route.
We're gonna
take.
Yeah.
And then,
And that'd be for further research.
and it would be a town board decision.
And it would be available to other landowners if they had, I don't know what the basis of decision would be.
Right,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
do you mean the grandfather, that's what I was thinking, like a resolution doesn't seem like that would have enough weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
then are we,
I'm comfortable with that too. I was just proposing the other one as like, just a idea.
So if
for
we
the
made
sake
it
of
a local
conversation.
law, would we be doing it for everyone, like Frank said?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
any-
I think so. I would do that. It's for the town.
Yeah.
It's local.
Right, so I mean, but that also solves the issue of feeling like we're picking and choosing.
So from the comprehensive plan perspective, there's actually no necessary edits here.
Except that we have to put in the language that Nina's asking for, an overlay zone that adds some restricted.
Right, so we need
conditions.
to have, so yeah, we have to have the exclusionary parts covered.
Yeah.
But we don't need to make mention of the local law portion
No, not at all.
and no changes to what the extension of
But
the
are we
corridor is.
agreed that that's what we,
I think at this point, I mean, I think,
everyone's comfortable with that?
Just to summarize, because I can't hear all of it.
Oh, we started early.
yeah, Nathan has to leave at 7:30.
You want me to draft that language and then circulate it to you?
Yes, please.
I would speak to Nina about this, about the language to make sure I'm getting it right, and then circulate it to you to make sure you're okay with it.
That'd be great.
Okay, will do.
So Frank, what we're gonna do is not make any amendments other than the exclusionary context that is needed for what will go in that extension. Then is a
On the
separate,
east side.
right,
Right.
and then we will have a separate, or
Parallel.
us or another town board will have a discussion about the local law, which will extend that grandfather.
Understood, Right.
Are you in agreement that that's the
Yeah,
best? Okay.
yeah. I think designations of what's accepted on the east side will be pretty important to people who live there.
Right.
But
So Gary's gonna own that as far as authorship. He's gonna consult Nina and then we'll share that with us.
and how
So
does
all
this-
I've got in terms of specifics though are gas stations and light industry as things that might be excluded. So are we gonna leave the rest of that, those?
And
incompatible
manufac-
uses? What?
And manufacturing. I don't know if that's considered light industrial, but also manufacturing was mentioned.
This
Okay.
leaves in the possibility of additional restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like Uncle
Yep.
Sunny's, that would be great.
Yep.
I'm
But
sorry.
actually, wouldn't this new local law that we are considering that would also affect companies?
We wouldn't need to.
No,
Because
Uncle Sunny's is on that. on
Oh,
the
because
east
it's on
side.
the east side, so it will be, okay. Got it, got it.
Anne, are you in agreement?
Just one clarification question.
Yeah.
So this new town law, this resolution concept, is this something that would apply to non-conforming uses that have been abandoned anywhere in the town or just on this one strip of land? What is the proposal, just so I can understand?
We haven't, well,
You're not there
you're
yet.
ahead of, you're so
Okay.
far ahead of us.
I
That's fine.
believe it would not be universal. In my mind, it's hard to believe that a law would apply only to one little segment of town.
So like, let's say, Bob Palumbo, let's say when they sold the Bengal Whaling Company and it hadn't been used in 1 year, so it lost, I thought it was 1 year, but so it lost its ability to be a restaurant. if we were to enact a local law that said the grandfather lasted for 5 years, then somebody could come in, not with the liquor license, but they could come in and make it a restaurant.
Yeah, and I don't think that the,
They're in the art, they're in the commercial zone.
Well, this is gonna be,
I know.
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right,
They would have been fine anyways.
It only is talking about non-conforming
Right.
legal uses that have been grandfathered, but then abandoned. I think that's the scope of what you're talking
no.
about.
Not
I would-
abandoned.
Yeah, not abandoned, because I think it also covers people if they're trying to
Nathan?
sell and have.
Yeah, Gary, go ahead.
Transferred up.
No, I'm going to step out of the room for about 2 minutes. Okay, I'll be right back.
The grist mill doctor's office could be something like that you could consider for that, I guess.
yeah.
Because that business sold and it's been bought, but it's still dormant. But it's been well over a year. So if
How
that,
are you
so
defining abandoned?
Abandoned is just a zoning term for meaning it's no longer operating.
Oh,
so that's vacant. And so I would say that what it would do is it would open up the opportunity for whoever owns that property to say, hey, this is, the extension is impacting this property. So it's not just available for residential. You can actually have a business of X type in this spot.
It's every, it's 1 year or 3 years. If it's come from that use.
right, so we're
But
saying
you-
we would extend, this law would extend that use.
For 5 years, so
Right.
then it's down for 5 years, and after it.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing you can do is you can go to ZBA and ask for a use variance.
Right.
Which are not granted very often,
Hmm.
but they can be. They granted one, I think, for the terrace.
Yeah.
As a lady decided.
Correct.
But
Yeah, there would,
when you
it's
go
not
for a use
happening.
variance, it's like this building can't be used for anything else, basically. There is an avenue to come back.
Well, we also, I mean, again, we're ahead of ourselves here, but we could also make it 10 years. I mean, that opportunity hangs out there for longer than 5 years. I mean, I think we're getting into the weeds now for something
That's outside the comprehensive plan.
yes.
I think as long as the owner knows that there are opportunities that the town is exploring, that so that he would not be economically disadvantaged. I think that's about the best we can do right now, I believe.
Okay, so
So
where are we?
No, I just want to make sure we're good before we move on.
I think we're good.
Yep, so we're at 7 o'clock. We're moving to page 71.
Can I just make a quick one?
Yep.
On page 69, item number 15.
Item number 15. What
Yeah,
is-
Second bullet.
No, on this list,
Oh,
item number 15,
on
which
page-
is on page 69.
Oh.
Second bullet.
Yeah.
The word conducive is provided, and I don't think that's the right word. The word conducive on that second bullet.
Yeah, so the change is going to be compatible with the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
That's the edit.
I'm back.
Hey, Gary, we're still here too.
Okay.
sad.
Let's see. Okay, so page 71. The first bullet of the second, I believe it's the second. Yeah, the second comprehensive plan recommendations. It says it's repeat information that there is one active and one inactive mine in Stanford.
Wait, we're on page 71?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
at the top bullet?
This one.
The top bullet.
Yeah. Include inactive mine in the overlay. There's a question, and then the town board will contact the owners of the mining properties and ask whether they would like to be included in the overlay. So I think that was just an action item on our part, but I don't know if that's been done.
I still don't know who the owners are.
So the first part is finding out who the owners are, then asking if they'd like to be included.
Who's going to do that?
Why wouldn't they want to be included? Why wouldn't they want to be included? They don't have to do it.
Well,
Looks like a
I'm-
Yeah.
Frank's gonna do it.
Didn't they just sell the properties as residential?
This is what Mark and I mean, I know that the big, what's it called, Mark? The big mine, like is gonna be subdeveloped into a residential.
The Darling mine.
Darling. So the question was, did somebody else own a little piece of it that still is?
I know they gotta build the road, so this is an assumption. I'm assuming they want to have the gravel mine permit. So gravel mining is a 4-letter word, so I think any place you can have a gravel mine that's already permitted, you gotta allow it.
So it should include the existing sand and gravel mine and active and inactive. Should be included.
Yeah, I think when we were originally talking about this, I made the I brought up, shouldn't we just include the inactive?
You did.
Yeah,
So-
but it sounded like from the discussion, I mean, I don't remember this, but if someone was gonna ask if they wanted to be, the owner wanted to be included. But if
I
we're,
think we should just include it. If they don't,
I agree.
they don't need to.
Okay.
No, I
Well,
agree.
I can think of a reason why they might not want to be included. And that is that if they're trying to sell some of the parcels as residential, I don't think I would buy a residential parcel if I knew that there was the ability for an active gravel mine to open up next door. So that I would think, decrease their ability to sell the parcels, but I don't know.
But if it's inactive, he still has a mining permit. He's just not mining, whoever this he is. And it doesn't seem fair to make that person go through the incredible hoops they'd have to go through to get re-permitted.
Okay, I get your point. So they could do that mining anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seemed to be worthwhile to ask them, but
We don't even know who it is.
we should be able to find that out. Who owns the property?
Okay. So
Okay, so it's Steve's job.
it's Stephen Price.
We took it out.
Okay, so this is still not resolved. Or it's Rita's job.
but there's an action to take,
Well, if we reach out to them and they don't respond within,
30
yeah,
days.
I guess that, yeah, then is our backup, we'll just include them.
Yeah.
If they.
I think so.
don't have strong.
Good?
Okay, who's going to do it?
You said Steve?
I'm gonna ask Steve Godovich the question.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Give it to Steve. Great idea.
So the next item, page 83. And I'm trying to get there myself. So many.
Yeah,
You'll-
that's so many.
You have to be here for an extra half an hour.
The first 100 pages. Yeah.
Yes.
In
Uh,
Urdu.
The first paragraph. Add sentence
This was
about,
Wendy's.
What?
so it was, you had made the request to ask horseback riding. So Nina needs the language for that.
Horseback riding.
Yep.
Horseback riding. That's what, but she said,
It was about cyclists passing through the town.
that
Yeah,
was him.
it's-
That was him.
No, it was you.
I talked about the cyclist,
We
but
talked about the cyclists.
yeah, but that was not something that needed clarification on.
So what is cyclists pass through town as they enjoy the scenic views that Stanford and the region have to offer. Hikers and naturalists come to town to visit Buttercup Farm, blah, 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 blah.
Equestrians take advantage of our many.
Open farmland.
horseback
wooded trails.
riding.
Our mini what?
And
Horse
let's
riding.
Take advantage of our open farmland and wooded trails.
Or future rodeo stations.
Okay, and riding.
It just
I
put-
just said it, you weren't listening.
Say it again.
I said, equestrians take advantage of our open farmland and wooded trails. I mean, we could get into hunt country. Talk about hunt country.
Of our
No, I mean-
open farmland.
And wooded trails.
Okay, we got the
Excuse
language. You got that?
All right, so we'll provide that.
I like it.
Um, the next item, Gary, you might have to help me with this one. It's with the appendix and it says that it Nina's to review.
Oh, well, those, so those are just glitches with the production of the appendix. I don't think we need to deal with those here.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, she's going to check them out.
Okay. So we have 20 minutes remaining. We've completed this document. Is there any other parts that we can potentially discuss and close
Well,
in
what's,
20 minutes?
because there's been some error between meetings, where have we left off in the document? I mean,
We've completed the document. It's
good Lord.
but the completion has been primarily, I feel like some of the meatier topics we've discussed tonight. But a lot of the document we've gone through we've already made amendments as far as word changes, striking a word or changing a word from would to should or something like that. But we have completed the document.
Yeah, but we did skip over,
There's some things,
yeah, we did skip over a couple of things where we had debates and things that to go back.
Right.
like I'm,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Those were the bigger topics. Yeah, but
106 is kind of a big one.
what, I'm also looking at 80. This is kind of all over the place, but I think
well, this was the in between now and the last meeting. I think this is when I had sent out a request for everyone to consolidate what they wanted to talk about as major topics. And I did get some of those, but I didn't get everyone's. But I think that is another next step. I think we still need to do that. And that way, the next, I don't think we're gonna be able to do it in the next 20 minutes, but what we'll do is we can say, okay, here are the 18 things that came in from everyone collectively. The next meeting of an hour and a half or what have you, we're gonna talk about these two. And the idea will be to close out those 2 or 3, however many in that session.
so. What we need to do is go through our own annotated copies and compare them against this and see if there are still things we want to discuss or add. Basically, like I'm looking at page 84
Yes, yeah,
and I
yep.
have notes that aren't being talked about.
Right.
Okay.
Presuming those are not notes that are like just minor changes or questions.
They might be minor to some people, major to others.
No, but what I'm saying is that we've already gone through page 84
But this language wasn't added and I don't understand why,
because there hasn't been an updated draft of this.
but it would be here.
Not necessarily,
Why not?
because she wasn't, these are Nina's notes and she was not in all the meetings. So those might be notes that Gary also had.
I'm a little lost.
So she's referencing, I'm not sure exactly what, but there's a point on, well, I just don't know the specifics. There's a regulatory question that she has about page 84. And we have gone through page 84 as part of our question and answer and minor edits or amendments. And she's saying that we have had other discussions about this, but she's not seeing it as not addressed in the document from Nina. Although I know if we have discussed it in other meetings, for instance, in May or April with you, that I believe that you also have some notes of these changes that are to be made within the plan. They're not there yet.
So Wendy, on Nina's notes about your notes, right? On the notes she added after the June 16th meeting, we talked to her about your comments about ways to research and incentivize adaptive reuse, right? Is that the issue we're talking about?
Are you talking about home-based businesses?
I'm talking about a bullet, like, I'm looking at my page 84.
Yeah.
Identify vacant or underutilized properties in the Bengal Stanford hamlets to incentivize adaptive revitalization of existing buildings for commercial activities to and to research and promote a matching grant program. I don't, that was Nathan. But like, I'm looking at the second bullet on the second column on the right, it says promote existing businesses and attractions, and I wrote down as well as potential new facilities such as tent camping sites.
Oh.
So I don't see that anywhere. So what I'm gonna do is go through this again and compare it to the document we looked at, and then if I have
Well,
if it's things that I think are,
So what we actually need to do then is we need a change document. So basically, because we're not paying to have this, whether it's people time or monetary, we're not paying or investing in an edit of this. We need to create what's called a change log. And the change log will be a complete list of all the conversations, amendments that we've had, so that you can reference this and say, okay, page 84, line, what have you, this is going to be the edit. That's what we need to draft.
let's see.
So we can start a document that's shared that everyone can go and add to.
Oh,
I would rather it be a shared document, otherwise we're going to be duplicating things, and then someone's going to have to go in and do the edit of that. And
right.
I know all of us have enormous amounts of extra time, so.
So like, so it's basic, oh boy.
So, you know, with regard to the bullet on page 84, Wendy, we gave
Yeah.
Nina some text, the bullet about identify vacant and underutilized properties. We gave Nina some text to change it to, and she says that she has changed it according to her comments on your. The other one you talked about,
I don't see her. I see she was here, I guess, for page 84, but there's no mention of regulatory first bullet, which home-based businesses. Wow.
Is it,
It's-
you
it's-
read this, but is it this one?
No, this was the one that promote existing
Okay.
businesses and attraction, as well as potential new facilities such as tent camping sites. And I just don't see where that happened.
I'm gonna be frank, I don't ever remember you mentioning that one.
Yeah.
Well, I
yeah,
have it
and
written.
and it wasn't on your note. It wasn't on your notes, Wendy. So I think it got left out here. So you have to probably bring that up fresh.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
Gary? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Frank. Yes.
Gary, I copied and I'm reading and following the copy, the series of the documents that has these speech balloons, the little balloons that identify someone speaking, and
The Post-it notes. Yes.
the little teeny post-it notes. And I've numbered them, and it's made all of the written documents very easy to follow.
Mhm.
Is it possible to have what she has written about text having been added simply printed now? Where those bullets are, those post-it notes?
You mean actually add the change text in there?
Right, she says that she has updated text, which seems to me like all she needs to do is print it. We don't have it. I think what I have is the most recent identification of these
Right.
31 items.
Yeah, we had told her how to change the text and she's made the changes, but we don't have a copy of the changes yet.
Right, we don't see them, but she says she's already updated them.
So maybe we just ask for a copy, not a, new design, but just a copy of the language, of the whole document with with the changed language she's incorporated, Gary?
Yeah, or ask her for copies of the places where she has changed the language, so that we can see how she's changed it, to make sure it's what we think, right? Because I don't know if, yeah. So you would be asking her,
By just the pages, her language that she's added.
She could also be a co-author of this change document.
Right.
And presumably she has it saved somewhere. This change document is going to be text only.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
presumably if it has the text somewhere, she can just say, page 67, column 2, what have you, here's the text.
yeah, I think that's a good idea, Nathan, just do the change document rather than trying to show it on
Yeah.
the,
Yes.
on the original.
I
Okay.
have to write to her. She checked in with me. In fact, I asked her if she wanted to zoom into this meeting, but she's with her mom in the city today. But so I can write a note to myself. Note to self. To write to her and ask her if we can get. Are you want to do that online as a Google? Or what do you want to do?
I wouldn't do it as Google.
All right, whatever your magic.
Well, we have a cloud service through the county. So we can use the OneDrive. And I think we can give,
You lost her already. But you know how to find it now, right?
I know today I could open up everything he sent. You know,
so I
like the
can
videos.
create the initial document
Okay,
and it will be a URL and I can share that URL and you'll be able to edit it. And anytime, and it auto saves and
Okay.
someone can be working it at the exact same time you are.
okay, so we could ask Nina to go in there and put in,
That's the one thing I need to check on is because she doesn't have a Stanford email address. I don't know if she will have an associated account, but there are other ways for us to accommodate that where she could simply send it to us and one of us could input it. If it's
Right.
as simple as copy and paste, we can,
and Jane
we can
could
do that.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Jane can do it. Anyone with the town. So I just like it because it's more secure
Okay,
and
okay,
it's accessible and
okay.
we can do a Zoom and because I paid for this month because I had to record this. So we can do a Zoom and I can show you how to do it.
Do you
real
want
quick.
us to, do you want the town to get a Zoom account?
I don't think we need one.
Okay,
I got a deal this month. Everything's cut in half, so it's $7.50 for this month. So I was like, whatever, I'll just do it. It's better than me having to write all this out. I can spend $7.50 for that.
okay. So I think we have our marching orders for the next meeting and do we dare, actually, let's set a date.
November is looking good for me. Just teasing.
I'm gonna be, I mean, it
I know you're
actually
away.
can't be September. September's good. Well, I'm gonna be gone in September. That doesn't mean
Okay,
it's
where
good.
do they go live?
Oh, that's at the very beginning of September. We go see Bo like around,
Wisconsin.
yeah,
Ooh,
we're
that's
driving
too far
out.
away. He's gotta move closer. Maybe
They
we can visit Sadie.
But I am gonna go, I'm going back to North Carolina for a week.
Do you want to try and what days were bad for you again? Or what days were better? I can't remember if it was one day or there was one day that we,
I don't think there were any good days.
Yeah, so. The first and third Wednesdays are school board.
right.
Second Wednesday is ZBA. Monday and Tuesday nights, I have study hall, except for the next the town board workshop. So Thursdays are really my best day. I could do the fourth Wednesday. There you go. That's my month.
The 29th?
No, the fourth
Um,
Wednesday is
Oh, the
28th.
22nd.
Wait, I'm sorry, which
Are
one
we
are we
looking
looking
at
September is
Yeah.
the 28th.
I hope so. I don't think we're gonna meet in the next week, are we?
I could do the 28th. I
Yeah,
could do the 28th.
28th.
That's a Wednesday.
And because.
Oh, okay.
Anytime under the 7th, Margaret.
Backup
And
date
you,
to be the
I
29th.
texted him and called him, trying to see if he wanted to carpool.
28th, what time?
When do you, well,
7.
6 to 7:30. Oh,
No, I'm just saying.
You want to split the difference and go 6:30 to 8?
Oh, no, I mean, 6:30 is fine. I just need my good friend here to,
Okay,
every
6:30
meeting I
to-
have is.
Yeah,
I
6:30.
like setting the,
Me too.
Me too.
Well, you know who else does is Geneva.
I'm sure.
I bet
does.
she does.
She's
6:30.
when we're not recording, I'll tell you what happened the last time.
Uh-oh.
What day of the week is September 28th?
It's a Wednesday.
Is
Didn't you
Thursday
just say
better?
Thursdays were your better day?
Yeah. I know.
No, she said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gary, does that work for you?
What date are we talking about? September 28th?
Yeah,
Yep, it's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday, 6:30 to 8.
That works for me, yes.
okay.
Is that Frank? Is that?
I believe so.
We'll pencil it in.
And we have homework to do.
Yeah, everyone's got Gary's got something, I got something, and then I'll also get this change document started and I'll circulate that
And I have to do-
soon.
And I'm asking.
So
Steve-
everyone is supposed to submit the ideas for things that need to be discussed. And we're gonna have a punch list basically of stuff that needs to get.
There's two things. One is there's going to be a document of things that is basically, it's a tracking document to track the changes to the document without actually the document.
Right.
The other is, here are things that we have not discussed that we need to continue to discuss. Everyone will share that in advance. I will consolidate it and then reshare it with the group saying, here's the list of things. What 1, 2, 3 things do we think we can talk about and get through in the next meeting on the 28th?
Can I just confirm, we don't have a budget meeting in
Uh,
September?
On that date, I'd have to go get my calendar. If you don't,
I just. didn't bring my-
I'll be right back.
Wasn't that on the sheet you sent?
I'll be right back.
Uh,
I found that it's 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Budget officer submits tentative budget to town clerk on Thursday, September 29th.
Section 164.
The budget workshop meeting number 1 is October 11th.
Correct.
That's what I got.
Workshop.
Title that
Correct.
section is not.
So I don't know why they're running away.
It's in there, you can't-
Not till Are we good with Gary?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, thank you all. We'll be in touch.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
No, I really have to put this in some kind of